Hello, my name is Mia Milton, and I'll be reading Mahalia Jackson and Gwen Ifill from Little Leaders. Mahalia Jackson, 1911 to 1972. Born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, Mahalia was always surrounded by the sounds of the blues and Mardi Gras. As a child, she sang songs by Bessie Smith in her room at night. But little Haley, as she was called, came from a religious family, and the only music that was acceptable to them was gospel music. She made her singing debut in a choir at the Mount Moriah Baptist Church and blew everyone away with her enormous voice. Later in life, she felt the urge to sing non-religious music, but she had made a promise to herself and her family to sing only gospel, and she stuck to it her whole life. She turned down big nightclub shows and lived on very little money. But in 1946, she recorded a single, Move On Up a Little Higher, that sold over 2 million copies. That's a lot of copies. She gained a following around the United States and traveled for performances. Her shows drew large crowds from both Black and white communities. Segregation, however, was still the law of the land, and Mahalia struggled with it during and after her performances. When she was on the road, Mahalia kept food in her car just so that she wouldn't be relegated to the colored section of the restaurant. At the request of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Mahalia participated in the Montgomery bus boycott, and in 1963, she performed at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, where Reverend King gave his famous I Have the Dream speech. She was on the podium behind him, and when he started to go off script, she encouraged him. "Tell him, Martin," she shouted. "Tell him about the dream." The most famous part of his speech wasn't planned, but Mahalia knew how powerful his words were and how important it would be to share them. Gwen Ifill, 1955 to 2016, journalist. Gwen was born in New York City, but grew up all over the East Coast. Her father, a Caribbean immigrant, was a traveling minister, so the family moved with him. One thing that remained a family tradition, no matter where they lived, was to sit around the television every evening to watch the news. Gwen's interest in the way the world worked grew from there. She knew from the age of 9 that she wanted to be a journalist. In college, Gwen studied communications, like me. And immediately after graduation, she began a career in journalism. She moved her way up from small newspapers to prestigious publications such as the Washington Post and the New York Times, and then transitioned into television. She made a reputation for herself as a savvy and analytical journalist. In 1999, she began working at PBS on 2 political programs. Her standing in the world of politics earned her the respected position of moderator for the vice presidential debate during the 2004 elections, making her the first ever Black woman to do so. She went on to moderate the same debate during 2008 elections and the Democratic primary debate of 2016. In 2013, still working for PBS, Gwen got a promotion that would make history. She and her colleague Judy Woodruff were hired as anchors of NewsHour, making them the first all-female network news team and making Gwen the first African-American female anchor of a network news program. Many look to Gwen as the ultimate role model in journalism, a trailblazer in her field. She was a true professional, full of integrity and fairness. Thanks for joining me today. I hope that you learned a lot, and I hope that you find these women inspiring, and we all know that you will go on to do wonderful things just like these women did.